Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
I'm Helen.
And I'm Allie.
And everybody, if you haven't turned off your podcast now that you've heard Helen's voice.
Oh my God.
If you're still here, we've got a really great episode for you. It was a huge weekend in women's soccer and women's football. Women's football weekend, is that what it's called in the WSL? And then NWSL playoffs. But first and foremost, before we get into everything, both of you met like huge stars of the women's soccer game this weekend, but I don't even want to spoil it. Which one of you wants to go first?
I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say like top 5 people that I've wanted to meet in world women's football, because I think both of them, both sisters are legends, but because she's never played in the UK, it feels like extra special. I met Kay Mew, Christy Mewis, Houston Dash, USA.
Kay Mew.
So she was there supporting Sam Kerr very openly, by the way. So I'm not just like, sticking her in it.
No, she was also on TV. Like they specifically put her on television multiple times. So everybody knows that, yeah.
So it's actually a little bit of like a sub-story. So basically, I play for a football club called Manchester Lacers. Ali also plays for Manchester Lacers. Whoop, whoop. And Manchester Lacers were asked to do the WSL takeover. So we took over their Instagram account. So they were like, just go get amazing content all weekend. Like, just go do what you can do. So we had players at loads of the games and doing loads of stuff. And I was, like, designated at Man City. And I felt the pressure, guys. I felt the pressure.
The power you had with that Instagram handle, Helen. Did you feel like you kind of wanted to do something wild on it just to see what happened?
Yeah, but they just didn't use any of the wild stuff, guys.
Oh, you didn't actually have the, like, password. You had to submit it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they just said you had to send it to this little like random chat on something called Telegram. I'm old, so I was like, this is a new app, okay. And then it's not that old, is it? It's like everyone knows what that is. So we send the footage through, and then they handpick bits and bobs. So I'm like, okay, I want some content that's gonna make it. And so I was talking to my friend from She's a Baller, which I love their Instagram account, and she said, she's Welsh, so this is my best Welsh impression. She goes, who's on the row a few rows behind us? And I was like, I looked up, and there she was in all her glory, Kay Mew, just looking stunning, like just the most good-looking human being in the world.
She really is stunning. It's kind of unfair that she's that good at soccer and that stunning.
And also just like when she smiles, you're like, whoa, okay, I nearly just lost my footing a little bit. Like, whoa. So
she's also hilarious. And will I say the first question I had for you was, is she as cool in person as she seems?
1,000,000%.
And you were like, which is all anybody wanted to hear, because she's straight up hilarious.
She's so funny. And just like she said, so I said, I've taken over the WSL Instagram account. I'd really love some content with you. Are you allowed? She goes, I'm allowed, but Sam would kill me. So really, she's like,
I'm curious why Sam would kill her.
I think she meant like Sam is in because it would be either, I can't work out which Sam now in hindsight. I can't work out whether it's either Kerr would kill me because I would be like, oh, she's so amazing, I love Sam Kerr. Or her sister would kill her because she's obviously at her old sister's stomping ground at Man City. But I mean, I'll leave that up to your guys' imagination.
I'm going to guess it was Sam Kerr, but that's pretty funny that you can't make the distinction if she's talking about her sister or her girlfriend.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, Ali, who did you meet?
Yeah, so like anything Helen can do, I can do better. So I got to meet the GOAT, that is Viv. She was sat in the stands supporting, obviously, her girlfriend, Lisa Evans, who is on loan with us at West Ham. And she was so, like, nonchalant, very, like, she just came in with, like, the biggest duffel coat you have ever seen. And we were all like, is it? And then when like she got escorted over by our head of press, I was like, oh, it is, okay. So it was just before the game, me and my friend who is part of the Pride of Irons, which is the LGBT West Ham fan group, went up to her with a Pride of Irons scarf being like, look, we know you can't really because you play for the opposition, but is there any way we could get a photo of you with this scarf for our Twitter? And she was like, in her nice Dutchy Scottish accent, was like, absolutely. So took the picture with us with this scarf, and then we were like, will you do the crossed eye? And she was like, not for photos, I won't, because I will get in so much trouble with the Arsenal media if I did that. But she gave us a quick crossed eye before she sat down.
I love that she knows where the line is. She's like, they'll be okay if I do this, but even though my girlfriend plays for this team, I simply cannot be caught doing this.
Can I just say, we were in different parts of the country asking things of footballers that they didn't want to do for us.
We've just set them loose on the footballing world, everybody. Watch out.
But yeah, Viv is very sweet, very soft spoken, and when Lisa scored her goal, like nobody cheered louder than Viv.
Well, while you guys were out meeting famous footballers and embarrassing us and the women's soccer show, I was on my couch eating cookies and watching all of the games. So it was very exciting. Every single game this weekend, except for one of them, which we will talk about, was so close. We had 1-1 draws all across the board or 1-0 wins. Everything was so tight from top to bottom. It just makes me so happy, especially that it landed on this weekend where there was so much coverage in the UK about it. It's wonderful that that's what happened.
I think it's great for the game, definitely. I think it's something that is really important for women's football, that we start to see these like really tight battles. Sarah and I, we talked about it during the Olympics, about how important it is for women's football that the gap starts to lessen between those top international teams and the ones that aren't quite there in terms of funding and infrastructure and stuff. We're starting to see that gap closing. And I think at the next World Cup, we'll see it again, because those players will go off on international duty after spending 3 years, 4 years, you know, playing in really good facilities with really top coaches, and we'll start to see that gap lessen even more so. So it's brilliant to see it in WSL. And none of us are like mega Arsenal fans, so we can all appreciate that is evidence right there, that Arsenal-Tottenham result, of the development of women's football and how fast it's been. Because 5 years ago, I was at the Tottenham Stadium 2 seasons ago, 2019, wasn't it? And they battered them. It was a walk in the park. This is how fast the women's game is developing. It's incredible.
I mean, it's perfect because Allie and I were talking to preview the North London Derby. Derby? Sorry, it confuses me.
Derby? keep that mic, Derby.
So I don't even know what I was saying because I got made fun of by 2 British people about how I pronounce the word Derby, even though I was already self-conscious about it. I almost messed it up again. The North London Derby. Allie, we talked about this to preview it very briefly last week, that this is always a write-off game 100% of the time. This is the very first year where it was like, oh, I want to tune into this. This is going to be a game. So, I mean, frankly, as an Arsenal fan watching this, I was scared. Let's just get right into it. Arsenal versus Tottenham came out with a 1-1 draw, barely. Viv got a goal in stoppage time to tie it up, but for the majority of this game, it was either tied or Tottenham was winning. So, I mean, we've spoken a lot about how Tottenham is in fine form this season, and nobody really expected it, but I feel like with this game, this is the game for Tottenham that solidifies, like, no, this isn't a fluke. This isn't us beating teams that are in the lower or the middle part of the table. We are here and we are actually competing for this Champions League spot.
No, I completely agree. But also I think it's because it's against Arsenal. I think that will have like boosted them as well, because they've lost so much face to Arsenal over the last years. Like it was 5-1 and then 10-0 in the cup and stuff like that. So they had a point to prove.
I was at Tottenham's win against Manchester City earlier this season, and then I was also at West Ham's win against Manchester City this season. When I came out of that West Ham game, I thought, quite lucky for West Ham, really, in the end. They scraped it through. Well done, West Ham. When I came out of the Spurs game, I was like, they're the real deal. They are organised. They know how to play a game and manage a game out. It's like they've practiced. This is what happens if we go 1-0 ahead. This is what happens if we, equalise. This is what we're going to do. It's like they changed their formation and they changed their positioning, and they are just a really well-drilled, well-organised team. And then you've got certain players which are real, I would say not legends of the WSL, but players like Ashley Neville. She's just been an absolute servant this season for Spurs and rightfully got player of the match in that game. Just every single ball that was in the final third, her body just threw herself in front of absolutely everything. And she was absolutely lethal for them. But Spurs are the real deal. No doubt about it for me now.
They're absolutely the real deal. And Allie, we talked last week about how they got rid of the egos. They brought in players who played the same system and fit into the system that their coach wanted to play. They've got the puzzle pieces put together. They've got a team goal that they're all really building towards. This was kind of like a normal performance now for Tottenham. And the question kind of out of this game is, what happened with Arsenal? Because they were not in the form that we usually see Arsenal in when it comes to goal scoring. So many shots, couldn't really put anything away. So what happened?
Yeah, so Arsenal had 19 shots compared to Tottenham's 11, and then they both had 6 on target, but they were just lackluster. Like, I don't know if they went into this game not really paying attention to how their opponent has grown, and they were like, it's Tottenham. We do this. Like, they seemed shell-shocked. And I don't know if it was that they were just tired from playing so many games, or if they were just like, no, yeah, we can sit back on this one because this is a guaranteed 3-pointer for us. And it didn't work out that way.
This is almost like what we learned from the Barcelona game with Arsenal. Whereas, like, Arsenal seemed like they were, not that they're not the real deal, but they seemed like they were the real deal, like the type that could beat Barcelona. Like, a step up from Chelsea, basically. And the Barcelona game was quite the eye-opener to be like, you know what? No, we've actually got quite a ways to go mentality-wise, tactically. And this is just another kind of point in that.
I'm somebody who sat here and I really want Arsenal to win the league this year. I think it'll be really good for the league itself to see some sort of diversity in who's winning. But what I will say is they obviously beat Chelsea on the opening day of the season, and everybody kind of harks back to that. They beat Chelsea on the opening day of the season in a very unique set of circumstances. Like, Chelsea completely changed their formation and they came back, I believe, without Sam Kerr or Peniel Harder, or it might have been Fran Kirby and Peniel Harder, I can't remember, but 2 of their major strikers. And I do start to worry a little bit. Have we hyped Arsenal because they've then gone on to win all the other games and be really comfortable against the Brightons and the other teams, you know, lower down the table? Have we kind of hyped them a bit because of that Chelsea game, and now they're not going to fulfill what they could fulfill as a result of that? That's my concern for Arsenal. But what I will also say on the other side is we've been talking about this battle for the winger positions, you know, like the start of this season going, oh, they've got all these wingers. They've got Nikita Paris, they've got Tobin Heath. Katie McCabe is the one that has been chosen to start. And my God, has she earned that position, because she's been absolutely excellent, even against Spurs. It's her heart, her grit. You cannot say that Arsenal are lackluster when you've got Katie McCabe on the pitch, because she is electric, gives it absolutely everything, every minute of every game that she plays.
So from one WSL game, Arsenal versus Tottenham, over to the other that we will be speaking about right now, which is, I'm so sorry, Helen, but we're going to talk about it. Chelsea versus City.
Oh, it's so nice to see you guys. Bye. Oh, God, I've lost signal.
If you need to go sulk for a moment, we totally understand. Do we even have to spend time on like who shall not be named? I'm not even sure. I think that we do, because it's simply mostly his fault. But Chelsea ends up winning 4-0. The first half ended 0-0. And frankly, City dominated the first half, in my opinion. It was City's game. They started to look like the old City, like, oh, hey, this maybe could be a turning point for them in the season if they're playing like this against Chelsea. And then something happened in the second half, and they came out, and Chelsea just, what's the phrase? Swept the rug, you know what I'm saying. Chelsea did really well.
You know what? There was like a bit of a similar sort of thing in both fixtures, in the Spurs versus Arsenal game and in the Chelsea versus City game. There was one big decision in both games that changed the face or the course of the rest of the game, I believe. In the Spurs Arsenal game, it was Jordan Nobb's equaliser, and the referee's just absolutely abysmal decision to blow the whistle. I was like laughing, because it's like, obviously I don't have that affiliation to either team. I was like laughing almost in bewilderment, but also thinking, like, I just can't understand how it's so bad. And then in the Chelsea versus City game, it was the blatant penalty decision against Lauren Hemp. I mean, when you see it in slow motion, it's potentially a red card for Berger. The goalkeeping decision, it's the right decision to come off her line. She doesn't get anything of the ball. Potentially, you know, they bring the stretchers out for Lauren Hemp. That's the level that they were at. So until then, I think it was on a knife edge. It's obviously 1-0 because the early mistake, which was no point in going into. But then it was on a knife edge for a while. And I think that decision and that moment of seeing their world-class star player Lauren Hemp on the ground, it was almost like then they just sort of, it just imploded, and it was just a walkover for Chelsea. What I will say is, as a closet City fan, it's not even that closeted anymore.
I can't believe you're still on that train.
I'm as City as I am a lesbian. I'm out on both sides. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's very finally. I feel like that's finally your big coming out moment of like, this is who I am, people.
It took me a while on both.
Listen, Helen, if it's that high of an equation, if you're as much of a City fan as you are a lesbian, you're a really big City fan.
Fuck. Don't tell my dad. So on both counts, he still doesn't know I'm married to a woman. So with the before the game, I just kind of accepted the fate of the way that the game was going to go. I was like asked, I think, on 3 separate sort of pre-match little videos for Instagram or for when I was talking to BBC Radio Manchester, what's your prediction? I said 3-0 to Chelsea, and they said, really? I said, well, they were here 2 weeks ago and they literally destroyed them in the FA Cup. It's just going to be the same again. So in a way, I wasn't that gutted. I was kind of just sat there expectant of it. But we come full circle. It all goes back to the same person. Because 2 weeks ago, Gareth, you had the opportunity to change something. You could have watched the video from 2 weeks ago and gone, right, we've got 2 weeks to sort this out now. And we've got 2 weeks and they'll be coming back to us in the league. Let's sort this out. And what did he do? He played the same squad he played last week. And it was shocking.
No offense to Jill Scott, because I love her and I know she's beloved. I don't know what head coach puts her at center back, sees her make basically one mistake per game that concedes a goal every single game, and is still like, you know what? I think that this is a good idea, though, this game.
What it is it's this absolute, I think there's now contingents of City fans. They kind of go into 2 pockets. They're either in the completely aware of what's happening, which is a lack of tactics, a lack of structure, a lack of formation, and being completely blunt, because we're not an official podcast, the players don't like him either. Like, everybody knows it. The players don't like him. So it's not even as if he's loved, like, you know, he's not as if, you know, but he's such a nice guy and they hate him. They don't like working with him. They don't think he's good enough. He's a men's under-20 manager. I have no, like, real allegiances either way to the fella, but all I will say is he's not doing a good enough job, and he should have lost his job after Real Madrid, but he won't. And the issue is you've got camp number 1 over there, which are kind of aware that that's the situation, and then you've got camp number 2, which rest on the injuries, and that's where Jill Scott comes in, because actually when you've got injuries and you're Emma Hayes, you go, right, what have I got in front of me? Okay, I've got 7 injuries, I'm out, Peniel Harder's out, Sam Kerr's out, what do? You just change the formation.
And this is when tactics come in. Exactly. You change the formation so you can have players playing in places in the field where they can shine and their talents and their skills can be utilized effectively. You don't say, well, how can I fit these players into this formation that doesn't suit them at all? Change the formation, because, listen, at the end of the day, and I know we're beating a dead horse here, and I will stop first after I make this one point for the 10th time, and then I will ask Allie what she thinks, because I feel bad, but you look at the field when City is playing, and to me, well, injuries are never really an excuse, because like we're talking about, change the formation, change the tactics. But still, even with the injuries, you look at the lineup that City can put out, and the majority of players are like in the top players in the whole country. And it's just like, that is so the opposite of what is happening right now. Allie, please jump in. What did you think of this game?
I was being polite, but I will jump in now. Like, Helen skated over that first goal, and I don't think you can skate over that goal, because that is the second time in 2 weeks City have conceded in the first minute. Like, with the Leicester game, it was like they forgot that Jess Sigworth used to play for Man United and, like, can score goals. And then it was the same thing again with the first goal against Chelsea. It was sort of like, oh, the whistle's gone. Wait, what? What are we doing? Like, you've got 2 midfielders in your defence when you've got 2 defenders on your bench and you are not doing anything. You've got Ruby Mace, who played an absolutely blinding game for you, still 6 on the bench, and you've got Alana Kennedy, who is no longer cup tie because it's a league match. Why are you not putting her in and giving her a shot in the position that she actually plays, instead of sticking Georgia Stanway at the back, who is a little too hot-headed for defence and will get you into more trouble than she'll get you out of trouble?
I want to float your theory to Helen. Allie thinks that the players are kind of like lackluster, losing on purpose to try to prove a point and get Gareth Taylor fired. I don't personally believe that would happen, because I don't think that competitive athletes would have it within them to throw a whole season like that, but I can see how you could get there with like the collective, and if you're not going to listen to us, we're going to literally show you that you have to, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think conspiracy theories are like, theorists would be looking at this and going, how on earth is he still in the job? So, I mean, it is a theory. The difficulty is that, and I know this sounds really dramatic, but the way that it's going now, it's like you need to be looking at the other end of the table with like how your season's going. You need to be like seriously considering, you know, what's going wrong. The other thing is, I do think they have the power within that dressing room and voices within that dressing room that could and should be going to the powers that be within Manchester City and saying this relationship just isn't working. What I've heard on the grapevine from sitting in the stands, without naming names, people that are sitting within the sort of executive area with the families of the players, they're saying that the players are like outwardly saying like this isn't working, but Manchester City aren't willing to put like the energy or 50,000-60,000 pounds into a job hunt for a replacement. But then I've also heard that they're looking to steal the Barcelona coach to bring them over to Manchester City. So there's like kind of a few different things floating around.
Again, multiple camps and multiple different views of like, I have a positive outlook on this or a negative outlook on this, basically.
There are people still in the Gareth Taylor's doing a great job and there's just loads of injuries camp. And I'm like,
Who is in that camp?
yeah, idiots. People that now no longer listen to the podcast and have just turned off because I called them an idiot. No, but this is like something now that is basically people in the media are saying, like, you know, when the media are saying it in women's football, it's not looking good for you, Gareth. Like at Real Madrid, people were saying, oh, you know, they lost to Real Madrid. Now they're saying, get out. Like, this is ridiculous.
Now let's go around the world, around the world. We should really make that a duet. I don't know why one of us does it. I just had the idea that we should make it a duet.
Because you want people to carry on listening to this podcast. And if I sing, that's not going to happen.
Well, then let's get into it.
Oh, yes. So we are going to the French League. There is only one match we can talk about in the Feminine Division. Lyon versus PSG. Now, PSG tried to get a postponement because of the outside influences that happened this week. However, the league said absolutely not. And it went ahead as usual. And they paid the price with a 6-1 hammering, giving Lyon a potentially crucial 3-point cushion between the two sides.
So over from France to Germany, the Frauen Bundesliga was a goal fest this weekend. Not to be confused with Oktoberfest. It was a goal fest this weekend, with 4 games having 4 goals or more. League leaders Wolfsburg squeezed a 1-0 win over Bayern. However, their hottest rivals Hoffenheim pummeled Bayer Leverkusen 7-1 to bring them level on points and only behind by 1 goal. Keep your eyes peeled on this league. It is hotting up.
For sure. Now we are going back to Germany's neighbour Spain in the Premier Division Femenina.
Love it.
And to no one's shock, Barcelona have kept their win record going with a convincing 4-0 win over Levante. Both Bilbao and Real Sociedad picked up wins, and Atletico losing. Are we now finally seeing the pack breaking apart?
Over to Mexico with the leaders of the pack Tigres drawing with Club America. That's big news. Monterrey, who have a game in hand, have the opportunity to bring the gap between the two clubs closer. However, the playoffs are coming even closer. Knowing which clubs will be in that top 8 becomes an even tougher challenge.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
All right. We have only one more game left in this season. I'm kind of getting sad about it.
But let's be honest, those semi-finals did not go the way that everybody thought they would.
No.
Spoiler alert, guys.
Spoiler alert. I'm so excited to talk about these. Neither of them did. I don't even care which one we talk about first. These were an absolute blast. I think I would say one was a bigger surprise than the other, but this is what you want out of semifinals. Like, yeah, I mean, this is what you want.
Yeah. So we're going to talk Washington, Seattle first, because that was the one. I don't know. Would you say that was more surprising than Portland, Chicago?
No, I would say this is definitely the least surprising result between the two. I mean, Seattle came into this ranked number 2, so they got that bye, just squeaked that out. Washington came into this ranked number 3, so they're really, in terms of rankings within the league, wasn't too much of a difference between them. And then Washington has been looking really, really good in the past couple weeks and in their previous playoff games. So truly, when we were selecting who was going to win this game, it was a bit of a toss-up, at least in my mind, of who I wanted to select, because it was, Seattle's coming in off of the bye, they'll be more fresh, or are they going to have lost momentum, versus Washington's coming in off of this game, they'll have the momentum, but they'll have tired legs. So which way will it go? And interestingly enough, as a theme across this weekend for these two games, I suppose, Washington came through. They had the momentum. Seattle, even though they were the ones who had the break, really didn't look like they had fresher legs than Washington. Washington, having played an extra 30 minutes last week, came in guns blazing. And I mean, I have to say, before we even get into the game, while this was an absolute blast of a game to watch, Washington ended up winning 2-1. The broadcast quality, I just have to talk about this, because I've seen a lot of bad broadcasts in women's soccer. The FA player can get pretty rough when it comes to camera angles.
Yep. And rain. They like to just have rain and just cover.
It can get pretty rough. This was probably the worst one I've ever seen in my life. It was terrible. I mean, I assume, even though you were watching Twitch, you were probably watching the same broadcast as me, right?
Yeah, and it was not great. It was not great. I almost preferred the seasick one we got when England were playing in Ireland and the wind was calling it. Like, it was not fantastic, which for such a high level game.
Exactly. So for those of you who didn't see it, what happened with this broadcast, and we don't mean like the commentary, the literal image. First of all, there was one main camera angle. There was another one for like close-ups, but they didn't use that. So there was one main camera, which is terrible in the first place. It was a terrible angle. It was and then the camera itself had rain all over it. It started to get like foggy on the sides, like it does when you're driving in the car and like the temperatures aren't aligned and you need to put the defroster on. It started to get all foggy on the sides. At one point, it just looked like a Winter Wonderland filter was on it. And I was absolutely livid, because I was watching the first half and I was like, I don't even want to watch this right now. This game is such a good game, but it is so hard to watch. I don't even want to see this anymore. And I just think about everybody who isn't as big of a fan maybe as me, trying to tune into that game, would have stayed because the product was so good on the field, and tuned it off because they were like, what is this crap? I can't watch this. This isn't entertaining.
Can you imagine if they tried that nonsense with like the Super Bowl?
Exactly. This was a semifinal game. It was broadcast on CBS Sports, which, by the way, nobody has that channel here. Great. It was on television, but nobody pays for that television channel. So first and foremost, the ratings would be worse than if you just like thrown it on Paramount Plus or something like that. So to begin with, that's terrible. And then you get it on TV, even though it's on a channel nobody watches, and that's what we're watching. Anyways, I have to say this because it's a pervasive issue. This is a semifinal game that deserved so much better. They figured it out in the second half in terms of like how to wipe down a camera. So congratulations to them. And we actually got to watch the second half. But just to say, it's really disgraceful. Really, really disgraceful. CBS All Access. Or I'm sorry, no, CBS Sports Network. So do better. Now we can talk about the game now that we've gotten that off of our chests. This game was a blast. Seattle scored in the first 3 minutes, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh dear, what is this going to be? Washington's going to hang their head. They're too tired. And then boom, 10 minutes later, Washington came back with a goal. And then it was a fantastic game, back and forth. Allie, what were your main takeaways for Seattle for this game?
It was sad because we all wanted Laura Harvey to do it and just push on. So it was sad. I thought, considering the quality of players they've got, I was a little bit surprised at how, I'm not saying they didn't fight, because they did, but there was just a lack of accuracy. It wasn't even that Washington defended well. It was like barn door 10 paces, Seattle no chance. Like, it just didn't mesh with them. And like, I think they eased in with that first goal. That first goal was an absolute beauty from Lisa, who hasn't scored for a long time.
Oh, it was absolutely gorgeous. It was Pino plays a little give and go down the left side with one give and go, beats both O'Hara and Sonnet, who didn't read the play correctly, beats them down the left side, sent a beautiful cross across the box, and Le Sommer, who damn it, these French players really have my heart right now. Oh, she's just so good. She put it away beautifully.
Yeah, like, and you're like, yes, this is the Seattle we've been waiting for, and this is what they've been building to and thing. But they didn't have the one thing that Washington had, which is Trinity Rodman. If this didn't cement her rookie of the season, I don't know what would, because her goal just had like my heart in my mouth.
Absolutely. That was basically like a single, I mean, it was a great ball, but it was like a single-handed goal. Two defenders on her, made a run to split them, got them caught in no man's land, and just put it away like a pro, like she'd been doing this for 10 years. And nonetheless, when this was the most important goal of the game, arguably, because if they don't score to equalize early on, we don't know really how the rest of the game is going to go momentum-wise. Maybe Seattle settles in, starts playing a little more defensive. It gets a little harder to score.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Seattle could have been like 1-0 will do us. We'll park the bus. We'll stay there. But to come back, you said 10 minutes after that first goal was such a peach of a goal. You're like, right, here we go. It's anybody's game, but to be honest, it's Washington's.
To kind of finish on Seattle, to me, like the Reign, they just had, I'm just going to call them the Reign. I'm so sorry. I can't call them OL. The Reign, they had so many chances in this game, and they didn't put them away. This wasn't a game where, like Washington scored their second goal and locked them down. No, Seattle had a lot of opportunities to equalize to 2-2, and they couldn't put them away. And it has me just wondering, to me, this is a product of that bye week. And this is the detriment of that bye week. You're playing a team who's firing on all cylinders, who's really coming in hot, and you've had a couple weeks off, and maybe things are just not as sharp on the field, not as sharp mentally. I really think that if Seattle had not had the bye, they would have been putting more away. I have to ask, as we're finishing on Seattle, did this team underachieve? Are Seattle fans and this team looking at this season and being like, yeah, we underachieved for this year. That was really disappointing. Or are they happy with the progress that they made?
If I was a Seattle fan, I would be really happy with the progress that we've made, because very beginning of the season, you wrote them off because there wasn't something clicking. There wasn't anything, like you said, they had the issues with the coach, and it just looked like it's a good thing this league doesn't have relegation, is the honest answer, because Seattle would have been in a lot of trouble. So I think if you're coming from that to like, you got to the semi-finals of the playoffs, you were second in the league during the normal league, you have crushed it to where you were. I mean, you'll be annoyed that you finished under Portland, because we all know that nobody likes Portland, like Seattle doesn't like Portland. But as an overall performance, you're going to be excited about what's going to happen next season.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also probably hoping that these players on loan are able to maybe stay in Seattle. And maybe that's a testament to Laura Harvey and people just wanting to play for her. So we can only hope that happens. So over to Washington. You mentioned Trinity Rodman. Washington comes out with the 2-1 win. They're on to the finals. I talked about momentum. For me, this game, their win. They're playing so well, and they just seem to continue to build every game, week by week, game by game. They're getting better and better and better. And this is a team also that, by the way, seems to really love each other, which is really fun to watch, really beautiful to watch. For me, Washington got this on momentum, and I don't mean that in a bad way. That's not to take away from the win. I mean that in a good way, in that they're continuing to improve every single game. They've got a squad of like underrated players. I mean, like you mentioned Rodman. Yes, she's going to get Rookie of the Year, but it's been a long time coming. She was the standout player in the Challenge Cup, and this is very well deserved. She's arguably one of the best goal scorers in the country right now. So Rodman, you got Ashley Sanchez, Ashley Hatch, Andy Sullivan, Bledsoe, the goalkeeper who just missed out on a women's national team call-up just now. I mean, Ashley Sanchez, got called into the national team as a midfielder. Ashley Hatch, just a Golden Boot winner for this year, just got called into the national team. Andy Sullivan's having her resurgence into the national team. But before this year, these were names that nobody really knew unless you were a diehard NWSL fan.
I was going to say, Andy Sullivan's resurgence, just like be still my beating heart, because I've been a fan of Andy's for a long time. And it's finally nice to see that the world is seeing what we all knew.
I could not agree more. This is now an Andy Sullivan fan club podcast because I could not agree more. For so many years, she's just been like the heartbeat of this team. And the way she holds down the midfield and the way she controls the game is just so, it's beautiful soccer. And she's a true leader, like mentally, emotionally. She's so great to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if she became kind of like that, but for the women's national team, as we see her to continue to grow.
Yeah, because Washington's got some big personalities, man. Some big personalities. And to have someone as controlled as Andy Sullivan manage to calm them down and get the game plan going, because she's got to manage the younger talent that's coming up with, like we said, with Rodman and Sanchez and all of that. And then you've got the old school O'Hara and Sonnet, who I can't imagine are easy to control.
Totally. There's a lot on this team. I think that that's such a good point. And for her to kind of be the like heart and soul of that team and be able to manage the mentality on the field too, like when they went down 1-0 in the first 3 minutes of the game in the semifinals, that's not easy. So I want to shout out Ashley Sanchez because, oh my goodness, she scored the go-ahead goal. She scored that second goal for Washington to put them ahead, to put them through. And it was gorgeous. If you haven't watched it, just go watch the highlight on YouTube. It was absolutely stunning. She's basically like parallel to the post, and she hits it with the outside of her foot and curves it in back post on like a bent ball with the outside of her foot, and I was just like drooling at the TV.
So that's one semi-final that we are excited and have covered. So let's talk about the most shocking, according to my lovely co-host, result, which was Chicago-Portland.
I mean, yeah, were you not surprised at this result?
Very surprised. But yeah, and my pick for the win, Portland, crashed out at 2-0 against Chicago.
Both of our picks just got wiped out this weekend, so we're going to have to make new predictions for the final, Allie.
So, can you blame the fact that they had so many players out? Both teams, to be fair, had so many players out.
I think you just said it. Both teams had so many players out. So the answer is absolutely no. Like, Chicago missing Malpew, missing Sharps, missing Kruger, and then Watt got injured in the first, 25 minutes. So all of a sudden, your two high-scoring best forwards are on the bench. And then on the flip side, Portland's missing Lindsey Horan, who got an injury in practice. Crystal Dunn, pregnant. I don't think that you can chalk it up to injuries. Obviously, Portland was really missing Lindsey Horan and Crystal Dunn. But, Chicago was missing people too. So does that mean that Portland wasn't missing Lindsey Horan? No. I think that if any game for Portland was going to benefit from Lindsey Horan being in that game, it was this. It was absolutely this. Because for me, what happened in this game is Chicago forced Portland to play the tempo that Chicago wanted. And what I mean by that is Portland wants to keep possession. They want to keep the ball in play. They want to move the ball around the field. And every single time Chicago could, they were disrupting it. They were knocking out of bounds. They were just killing the tempo, killing Portland's tempo. They're not just knocking it back to their keeper and stepping back up. They're knocking it out of bounds, staying really tight and condensed on defense, which they did so well, not letting Portland into the middle of the field. Portland had to work around the outsides, and as they did, Chicago kept knocking it out and disrupting their flow. And frankly, that's how they won.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game for Portland. Like you said, it wasn't the gameplay and the tempo and the skills that we've seen from Portland over this season. It was very much, and again, I think it's very similar to Reign versus Washington. Chicago were powering up from having played last weekend, having still got that momentum and the practice and thing, and Portland having that. I'm not saying they rested that week, but they didn't have the competitiveness. And it's clearly shown that the two teams that got in the quarterfinals have pushed it forward for the semifinals. And
yeah, and it's weird for Chicago, I will say, because their performance in the quarterfinals was really poor. And we were saying if they come out like that against Portland, they're going to get destroyed. And they didn't. They came out really, really strong. Morgan Gautreau, formerly known as Morgan Bryan of the women's national team.
there we go. I got very confused when they said her name because I
Okay.
was like, I know a Morgan, but not that Morgan.
Yeah. And she's playing really similar to the Morgan that I know. And she looks like the Morgan I know,
Exactly.
but that's not her name.
It's like when Julie Johnson became Juliet, someone's like,
I know. It's been like that for so long now. It's weird to me that she ever was Julie Johnson, you know? But I still can't get... the Gautreau part is still weird to me. So Morgan Gautreau absolutely dominated the midfield for Chicago. She is part of the reason why Portland really had to play around the outsides. And I will say for Portland, like, Sophia Smith was really the only threat. She was a huge threat down the right side, but when a team is playing such a tight defense, packing the middle of the field like Chicago was, you're not going to like one touch pass through that because they're so tight together. You need to find a way to to spread them out. And there's two ways to do that. Number one, you can literally let them have the ball because they have to spread out when they're on offense, and then you can try to counter. Or you can take players on 1v1, and that'll start to draw people out of position. Sophia Smith is the only player on Portland that was taking anybody on 1v1, and she didn't have too much support. So really poor performance by Portland on that regard, but really incredible tactics by Rory Danes in Chicago, I will say. You know, we're talking about Gareth Taylor and those tactics. Chicago won this game on tactics, hands and heart, but tactics really. And this was the last we'll see of Mark Parsons in Portland. He's off to coach the Netherlands national team, which he'll be really great at because he's a fantastic coach. And you could see the tears and the overwhelming emotion on all of the Portland players' faces when the fact that he's leaving. But disappointing for Portland to win the Shield and not actually win the championship on his last season. I guess my question is for you, do you think that played a role in how they played? Like, if you know this is your coach's last season, do you think that messed with their mentality, or is there nothing there?
no, I think it should be the other way around. Wouldn't it be like, I want to win this for my coaches last season? Like, you saw it a bit with Man City when Nick Cushing left, that it was like they were powering because they knew it was Nick's last season before he went. And you'd think, this is he's not going to a rival, he's going to a national club. So this is the last chance he's got at the moment to do anything, and we want to give him that send-off. You'd think it would power it up more than like knock the wind out their sails.
Incredible games all around. Shocking games all around. Just to note, the broadcast for the Chicago-Portland game was much better because they were playing a stadium that was A, built for soccer, and so B, had the correct angles and broadcast equipment for it. So that was wonderful, and it was really a pleasure to watch. But we're on to the finals. The last game of the NWSL season, the last game of the NWSL for 2021. I'm very, very upset about it. I just get sad when the leagues end and I don't have as much soccer to watch. But nonetheless, this is going to be a really fun one. We've got Washington versus Chicago this coming Saturday, playing in Louisville, which is a really awesome stadium. Their brand new stadium, again, built for soccer, which is great. We've got Chicago versus Washington. Allie, who do you have?
My heart says Washington, my head says Chicago.
And which are you going with, your heart or your head?
I'm going with my heart. That Washington, I think they've got the drive and the want and the passion to do it. I think Chicago might slightly just, be overwhelmed by them.
I think it's interesting that your head says Chicago. Both my heart and my head say Washington. I think that they've really earned it this season. I think it's theirs. And frankly, I will say, no matter what, we're going to have a new winner for the NWSL, and that is always great news.
Absolutely.
I mentioned this about the Chicago fans on the last episode. They've been to the finals, they've been to the semifinals, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Could this be the year where they actually get to take home the trophy? And I know we both picked Washington, but for those out there listening, do not discount Chicago. They just won this game against the number 1 seed Portland on heart and on tactics. Rory Danes has been here before. He could absolutely take this. I've talked myself into it. I'm picking Chicago. Everybody.
Do you know what, though? The thing for me that would be the saddest thing is if it's a boring game.
It won't be. I mean, I totally agree. That would be the saddest thing.
That's going to make my heart break if literally after all of the excitement that we had with the quarterfinals, with the extra time and all of that, and then we had like the shock with the rain going out in Portland, and then if this is like they barely like come out of their half.
Right. If it's like a 3-0 and nobody really like does much. Yeah.
Not even that. If it's like they stay in their own halves and then like one of them gets a goal and that was it.
Right. I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think this is going to be like two teams who haven't won, who are just going all out for it. And it's going to be a really exciting game. Everybody, this is going to be on actual television, not just on CBS Sportsnet. So watch it. It's at 12 p.m. Eastern in the US, 5 p.m. in the UK.
Yep, and if you're watching in the UK, it is on Twitch. The coverage tends to be pretty good, so you definitely should check in because it is going to be the big one.
Woo! So excited. We will definitely be covering it next week in the episode, I guess, unless it's a bore, but I don't think that it's going to be. So here we go. You have Washington, I have Chicago. Bring it on. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Ali, and Helen's gone off to sulk, so she'll be back at some point.
She got mad at us for talking about City. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.